Hi, Yvette.
Looks like you need to get some filing done.
That's cold. I mean, that's beyond mean. It's just,
Did you miss me?
Mike, is that a real background or is that a?
Yeah, that's our, it's a photo, but it's our background of from our house, on the point.
Okay, cool.
From the kitchen.
We were debating it if it was your house or just a backdrop, because it's cool.
Yeah, no, it's our house.
It is a picture. You can tell because the lighting never changes.
It is a picture. That's right. That's right. Today actually would be, marine layers here. It'd be a little cloudy. Hey, Bob, before we start, is this my last meeting or is it next, or did they extend it to December? Or at one time there was some discussion about City Council was going to move the terms for commissioners to the end of the year, but I don't know did that ever happen or?
Doesn't ring a bell to me. Vet, could you look that up and let the commissioners know tomorrow? Or
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And
otherwise I think
we lost our city clerk, so that's kind of
okay.
We're kind of having some problems with that department right now.
Is it just Mike, or are there other commissioners up? Okay.
Just me.
How are you?
And I think originally this would have been my last meeting in September, I think. I know for sure it was either this meeting or the next one in October is when your term typically would end.
Are you trying to get out of it? Is that what you're saying?
No. I will not be reapplying. I doubt I would be reappointed anyway. So I'm going to pass that on to somebody else.
Darlene was on the field tour, right?
Yes.
She's the chair. We should wait another couple of minutes for
And so was Sarah Burling.
Who's that?
That's Sarah.
Sarah?
I didn't attend, Sarah, so I got some time schedules screwed around a little bit.
That's Sarah.
There's Sarah.
Sarah.
Now we're just waiting for Darlene.
I meant Sue's sister.
Yes, that's Sarah.
Yeah, but
Sarah McClellan.
that wasn't her.
No, that's Sarah.
You're right.
So, Mr. Bell, I just muted you. So when you're ready to talk, you're gonna need to unmute yourself.
We can't hear Mr. Bell because he's muted.
Okay.
There I am unmuted. I should be unmuted.
Yeah, during the meetings, unless
Darlene,
you're ready to talk, then you should unmute yourself. Yes.
Thank you. Could you go ahead and mute me again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just if you want to talk.
I'm kind of connecting. All right, good. Okay. All right, guys. Oh no. Right. Welcome to the meeting. Sorry I'm late. Had a little trouble getting my computer open. It was updating everything. So, and I don't have my agenda up because I was gonna have to go on my iPad to do this. So, just give me 1 second, okay? Just to hold it up. Right. Welcome to the Forest and Beach Commission meeting for September 9th, 2021. We had a tour And I'm just getting my, all right, so
Madam Chair, the first thing to do is
have a roll call. I'm sorry, my
roll call.
roll call.
All right, are you ready?
No, wait a minute.
Okay.
Or call to the order. Okay, I've got it up. All right, sorry. Call to order and roll call. Thank you.
Chair Mosley,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Burling,
Here.
Commissioner Cadell,
Here.
Commissioner Myers,
Here.
Commissioner Sowers,
Here.
Hi, welcome. Public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern, not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comments shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission. Matters not appearing on commissioner's agenda will not receive action at this meeting, but may be referred to staff for future meeting. Persons are not required to give their names, but it is helpful for speakers to state their names so that they may be identified in the minutes of the meeting. So do we have some public appearances tonight?
Hi, this is Ramie Allard with the Friends of Carmel Forest. I just wanted to give a little report of what's been going on with us. We are continuing to monitor our 120 trees. And I'm happy to say that there's several of them that are ready to be weaned. But that doesn't speak to the fact that we're still finding about 90% of the trees when we do our monthly monitoring with a moisture meter showing 1 to 2 on the moisture meter as very dry. So we are asking that we know when you guys are watering, Sarah, so that we aren't alarmed that the trees have been forgotten. If we're monitoring on a day that we know you guys haven't been there for 10 days, then that's okay. But if the trees, we don't know that the trees are being watered is basically where I'm getting. And the other thing I was going to say is we have a volunteer that has a pressure washer, and we have several of our trees that have this black sooty mold. And so we're going to try to pressure wash some of that off and see what the results are with that. We're not sure if it is of any value or not, but since we've had such a moist summer, we're thinking maybe just a good blast to get it off the leaves might be beneficial. I don't have any clinical knowledge to know whether that's going to work or not. So that's it from the Friends of Carmel Forest. Thanks.
Thank you, Ramie. Does anyone else from the public want to speak? No? Okay. Right. Announcements. Does anybody have an announcement they'd like to make? Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to address Ramie's comment about the pressure washing, please let Agnes Martele know about your pressure washing ahead of time. Certainly you're more responsible than others, but sometimes we run into a glitch with our pressure washing and our water quality control requirements with the state, okay? So just give her a heads up before you get started on that. The other announcement is we were hoping to have this meeting live in the city council chambers. We came close. That didn't come to fruition, and as of right now, it's still on indefinite hold. So we don't know if we're going to meet live next month or the month after or the month after. So kind of have to wait and see. But worst case is next month we'll do the same thing. We'll do the field tour together and then go into our own homes or offices and have a Zoom meeting after that. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Charlene, can I chime in for just a second? So since this is my first Zoom meeting with back as the secretary for the Forest and Beach Commission, please bear with me. I'm doing the best that I can. So if I mute you or unmute you or anything that I do, just if I disconnect you, just call back. I'm going to try not to. And Sebastian is my backup, so he's really good at making sure that I can do this correctly. So bear with me, okay?
Welcome back, Yvette.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and welcome back, Yvette. And it has been many months that I've been trying to be the chair on Zoom, and it's difficult for me too, so bear with me. I am hoping someday we'll be back meeting in public. It'll make life a lot easier for me, and hope everybody else, because everybody likes to be together. If there aren't any more public occurrences or announcements, we'll get into our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and/or for public comment. Unless this is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions. So does anybody want to add anything to our consent agenda or approve our consent agenda, which is to approve the minutes for the August 19th, 2021 meeting? All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt all recommendations and actions.
I'll second it. And Yvette do we have to have a roll call on this? We do.
Yep.
Yes. All right, Chair Mosley,
Yes.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell,
I saw his mouth move.
Yes.
Commissioner Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearings. Our first topic will be to release the stop work order on Carmelo Street 3 southwest of 9th Avenue. Sarah, staff, would you like to give us your report?
Yes. So going back a little bit in time, on the Stanvik project, in 2018, a tree assessment was performed related to construction at this address, and it was noted that it had 2 trees on the property that were not significant, and that there was 1 tree in the public right-of-way. And at the time, if we look at some screenshots from that time period, 2018, this tree right here was alive, a little tree hanging out there. And there's that tree again in October of 2018. So it's still there. And today it's dead. So there was excavation at the base of the tree within the 6 feet that is a no dig zone, but that's not what caused the demise of the tree. It was just, it died through the construction process. So I'm asking that we have the Stanviks pay for the price, of course, of the stop work order removal, which is $545, and then pay the city $800 to replace the tree and reestablish it in the public right-of-way, and then also increase the number of trees that they're required to plant as part of their project. Initially, they were required to plant 1 upper and 1 lower, and I'm suggesting that we have them meet the density recommendations, which would be a total of 3 uppers and 1 lower on the property.
Any questions from the commission or staff? Are there any questions from, good, JC?
Sarah, so in the recommendation for meeting the density 3 upper and 1 lower, I'm sorry, could you repeat what currently do they have? And it obviously doesn't include this dead tree because that's a city tree. So what currently?
I did not explore the backyard, but from the front of the property, I did not see any trees. I believe Craig Holdren, the builder, is on the line. Is that right, Craig?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm actually the architect on the project, not the builder.
Were there any trees in the backyard?
Yeah, there's a substantial holly tree back there, which is doing fine. And there's also a fig tree. Those are the two, and neither one of them is huge. The holly's much more substantial than the fig.
Thank you.
I see no other hands up. Does anyone else on the commission or the staff have questions about this before we ask if the applicant or representative would like to speak? Okay. And so would the applicant or a representative of the applicant want to add anything to this?
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Craig Holden, as I mentioned, the architect for the Sandviks. And I'd like to say that we have no issue with the Sandviks being responsible for a replacement tree. I do have some concerns about the timeline of events, and what I thought had been the implication that the tree's demise had something to do with the construction site deviating from approved city norms. In Ms. Davis's initial stop work order, I believe she talked about that trenching within 10 inches of the base. And that's true, there is trenching within 10 inches of the base of that tree. That was done by Cal-Am. And interestingly enough, that work was done on June 25th of this year. So about a month before Ms. Davis came out and did the stop work order. As she mentioned, that tree was already in serious decline, if not completely dead, in March when city staff came out and said that they would be taking that tree out. If you made your site visit today, you probably saw there's more trenching to the left of the tree, which is the prescribed 6 feet away, but that trenching wasn't completed or even started until middle of August this year. So again, I think it's pretty clear from the timeline that the trenching issues around that tree have nothing to do with its demise. And I think Ms. Davis did acknowledge that today. Of course, there was construction. You saw the netting, and there's a lot of thick ivy around the base of that tree. And obviously it is dead, and we like the tree as well. It is unfortunate. We have no issue with the replacement of the tree and being responsible for that. I am concerned, though, about the increase in the number of replacement trees that to be approved for the lot. The 1 upper and 1 lower, absolutely, we're committed to that. But it seems a little irregular or even specious to say that, well, because this tree died, and again, we can't point to the construction site deviating from established city norms, but the tree did die. But now suddenly there's a punitive measure from our client standpoint of having to put up additional large canopy trees or tall canopy trees. It's also worth noting that when we got this project approved, there was lots and lots of back and forth with the neighbors across the street about maintaining sight lines for their views. And there was major concern during those planning reviews about where the 1 upper canopy tree could go so as not to impact their views. And so this was all taken into consideration with the initial planning approvals of the project. And to summarily add 2 additional upper canopy trees, I think would be unfortunate and create additional tensions within the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make comment on this issue? I'm sorry, did I see a hand go up? No? Okay. Then we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. JC?
Darling, can we ask questions to the architect before we bring it back?
Yes.
Okay. So I have had a question, Craig. Thanks for your presentation. The original permitting, when was that done?
A couple of years ago, probably about 2018, probably about the time Ms. Davis referenced. I actually don't have that information at hand, but it was some time ago, well over a year.
Got it. And in that permitting process, it went in front of Forest and Beach, and Forest and Beach is the ones that gave the approval of the one upper and one lower?
We did not present anything to Forest and Beach back then. It was, I think Mike Branson was still involved at that point, and it was just sort of a Branson determination that this is what would be required and was part of what we took to planning and got reviewed through the neighborhood. Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions for the architect or anyone? And we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. So, JC?
Well, I'm happy to go first. In the information that was presented and having gone on site, no doubt the tree is definitely dead. The architect brings up an interesting comment. It's specific to the timeline. Of course, whether or not it was Cal-Am that ended up doing in the tree or was all the construction, I guess at this point we're never gonna really know that answer. But being that they had a permitted project, and that permitted project only required them to plant one upper and one lower, I'd be inclined to have the owners take care of everything else except for increasing the density on this property. That's my opinion so far on this. Open to other people's ideas.
Mike, what could that?
I think, JC, do I understand, and you can just wave, as I understand what you're saying is you're willing to accept just one upper and one lower because that was what was originally permitted? Yeah, okay. That's the concern I have is I do feel like this should have been brought to the commission to begin with. I think we should have followed the guidelines, and I say we were not involved, we never saw it. But having said that, it did get the approval of Mike Branson. It did go to planning. They do have a permit. I would be reluctant to increase the demands on them in terms of an upper and a lower, go beyond that, since that's what was originally determined to be adequate. And so if this were a new project and they were coming to us, then I would defer to the city forester. But I think we do there's something to be said for honoring the precedent that was set several years ago when they initially issued the permit. And I think we should let it go with that. That's just my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess since no one's interested in saying anything else, I'll make a motion that we accept the city forester's recommendation with the modification that they only be required to plant one upper and one lower canopy tree in the front yard as part of the project.
And I second that.
There you go.
All right, can we have a roll call?
Chair Mosley,
Yes.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public hearing is the release of a stop work order at Mission Street 6 northwest of Santa Lucia Street. And Forster, Sarah, will you give us your staff report?
Yes. The Hobach property is under construction on Mission 6 northwest of Santa Lucia. as my research showed, it did not require a tree assessment when the construction was proposed back in 2017. So I don't have any historical documents. There's a public right-of-way tree adjacent to the construction site. And the structural root zone has been damaged as a result of trenching through the root zone of the trees. One. I will show the photos. Here is the tree. Here's the tree. It is under power lines. This is the trench from a distance. And here you can see it close up. So it is fairly close to the trunk of the tree. There's one large root that remains that spans the trench. However, they're fine fibrous roots that have all been severed. I did find one root mass that appears to be about 5 inches in diameter. So that's the end of the sharing. So it is required to have a permit to do any sort of pruning, even of roots smaller than 2 inches on a public right-of-way tree. So there was no application for any root pruning filed. I'm concerned that this is gonna damage the tree irreparably. There is another proposed construction site just to the south of this location that was reviewed, and the garage was going to be put in on the other side of the tree. So knowing that both sides of the root system are going to have significant damage, I think it best that we have the tree removed. So my recommendation is that the Hobots pay the appraised value of the tree into the reforestation fund. Also pay for the removal cost and stump grinding. Also to cover the cost of our third-party independent appraisal. Pay the fee to release the stop work order, and also pay to the city $800 for the replacement cost of the new tree. At this time, we do not have the results of the appraisal. We will have that dollar amount next week.
Okay. Does anyone in the commission have a question for Sarah? JC?
Sarah, as you mentioned while we were on the tour today, the appraised value hasn't been determined. Just out of curiosity, which method is the intention for coming up with the appraised value? And if you wouldn't mind giving us kind of your thoughts on the age of this tree and what the lifespan left when it was?
So we'll be using the appraisal methods outlined in the 10th edition of the tree appraisal guidelines. I would say the tree is probably around 70 or so years old. It is under a power line, so it has been continually pruned to maintain 10 feet of clearance around that transmission line. So it's not in the ideal location, but it could have gone on for many years into the future had it not suffered such drastic damage to the root zone.
Thanks.
See if I can unmute. Other than the cost of the appraisal that we don't have, do you have an idea what the total would be on all the other issues that you brought up?
Sure. Let's add it up really quick. I didn't total that up for you because I didn't have that appraisal number yet, but I got a quote for the tree removal at $3,800. The cost for the appraisal is $550. The release of the stop work order is $545. and the cost for the new tree to be established is another $800. So right now, it is $5,695.
And if that tree, so right now the tree is fairly healthy. It's been compromised on the, let's say, the north side. And when the people that are working on the lot on the south side start constructing, I think that will be kind of the end of the tree, because that will also compromise the roots on that side.
Yes.
So on the south side.
Yeah, if I recall from the last site plan, that garage is going to go kind of into the bank. So knowing that the root zone on the north side wasn't being impacted by any excavation from the neighbor's construction, I felt comfortable with allowing some excavation to the south side. So now it essentially has had, both sides of its root zone removed, will eventually have both sides of its root zone removed. So it is large, it is under the power lines. I worry about the structural integrity and the tree going into decline and ultimately dying.
Okay, but as it is right now with the north side of it being compromised, and we really don't have any idea when the south side is going to be under construction, because I haven't seen them really moving forward. Do we really want to take out a 70-year-old tree that looks pretty good and has been pruned away from the power lines pretty well? And is there a way to have funds now in lieu of keeping the tree until we find out that it really does have to come down?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. We could ask that the tree be treated with paclobutazol, which is a plant growth regulator that will stop the tree from really growing at the foliage end, and the tree will concentrate on putting on more root mass. So that could be one preservation technique that we could look at.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment from our commission or ask any questions? Then do we have anyone from the public or attached to this issue that would like to speak? Remy?
Well, Darlene, should we have is there someone representing the property that is?
Well, that's what I was asking for. So somebody representing this issue want to speak on this issue?
My name is Craig Novak. I'm the general contractor on the project for the Horbox. I'm available to answer any questions. We did have a building permit, and we had the excavation for the easement to dig across the driveway. So when we had a discussion with the building official, Mr. Swanson, Marnie Waffle, Jermel, the building official, the day before we dug this trench, they finally gave us the go-ahead to finish the 12-foot additional feet for a PG&E service, because this location is the only place on the property to reinstall underground power. We thought we had the go-ahead to proceed. So this trench is per the PG&E specifications. There's no other way to physically install a pipe in that situation of that scale of pipe with a man in the ground trying to glue 3-inch PVC. It's very difficult to remain safe. So we happily, we'd like to complete this, rebury that root zone, because I think leaving it open for the amount of time to wait for this process was stressful on a tree. I believe the tree is only about 50 years old, as that house was built in 1969. And the sewer line actually goes directly underneath the root system, as we found through cameras. So that tree probably didn't exist at all when the house was built. The eastern side of that tree, as if you did make a site visit, there's an extensive root system that's actually missing because it's cut in the road. Missing or it drives deep. So according to the nature of that bluff, I think it has an extensive root structure that does go down under the street. it should be fine. As Ms. Davis said, I had Jose Escobedo, he's a local landscaper, he did the trenching, as was shown with the large root remaining. I think the idea of spraying the tree to encourage root growth is a great idea. I think the Hobox would be inclined to help pay for that, but the removal costs seem excessive in our mind. Thanks for your time, and hopefully I can answer your questions.
I would also like to point out that Marnie Waffle, the planner on the project, is on the call as well.
Okay. And does Marnie?
Darlene, you muted yourself.
I just unmuted. Does Marty want to say anything about this issue?
I'm available to answer any questions. I don't have anything additional to add at this time.
Okay.
May I ask Marnie a question related to this? Marnie, can you confirm or deny that the applicant did meet with you and Jamel and Brandon, or whatever subset of those, to realign the electrical trench? And if so, was the city forester supposed to be notified at that time?
So we did meet with the contractor and Mr. Hobach to discuss the location of the meter. None of the trenching was approved in advance. And it looks like we're still reviewing their revision to their building permit for the final location of that meter.
So the excavated trench was not permitted at the time it was dug, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody from the commission have any more questions for Mr. Novak? Or do we have any comment from the public regarding this? Ramey?
I'm just curious what the tree density is of this property. Can anyone speak to that?
That would be 1, and that's on the city property. So there are no physical trees on the Hobach property.
Any other questions? And so we want to bring it back to the commission to discuss. And is that a hand up, Michael Cadell? No?
No,
No? Okay.
but I think JC had his hand up.
Oh, good. Hi, JC.
Hi there. I'll go ahead and open it up. The first thing, obviously, it's a disturbing trend that this trench was just dug without a permit, and I find that this happening kind of over and over again continues to be a real problem. And the argument presented that was the only way to get it done. I think we know that's not the case, and that's why there are permits are required, because that's when contractors can be instructed on how to go about doing it if they run into this kind of situation. So it's unfortunate that this is where we are. I certainly would prefer this tree not be taken out. It's not the best looking example in our city, but it is a significant one. And in thinking of it gone, it really opens up that street in a real kind of, in my opinion, kind of a negative view type of way, if you're thinking about a little town of trees. As the neighbor to the north really doesn't have anything in the front, and the one to the south that we looked at a couple of years ago, there are some trees, but they're nothing as significant as this. I think that what the forester offered as a potential opportunity to stunt the current growth and help regenerate the root system, I'd really like to see that option pursued first before we actually took that tree. And to the public's comments, specifically Ramey's, that what is the tree density on this lot? I just find it baffling that we didn't see this at all. I don't really know what is happening on this project, but that we did never see anything about it. I mean, maybe it's nothing significant, and so it wasn't any major construction. I don't know anything about the project outside of what's happened up front. So anyway, that's my first thoughts anyway.
Michael?
Yeah, I echo JC's comments. I'm concerned, and I did want to ask Sarah one sort of follow-up question. With the prior project, you were recommending an increased density, but on this project, there are apparently no trees on the property. How did this get through the process without requiring at least something, some trees be planted on the property, if you know? And why isn't that included as part of the forester's recommendation in this case?
That was an oversight on my part. This time I just didn't think to look at that. I did go back and try to find some documentation going back to January 2018. And it basically says to adhere to our typical tree protection from the past. This was before me again, so I didn't see the plans. Marnie, maybe you can give me a hand. Were there any landscape plans that required any new trees?
Sure. So this is a design study that we call Track 1. And Track 1 projects are usually very minor in nature. This was a very small addition and a repair to the home, which had suffered some fire damage. So a tree evaluation and tree replanting requirement is not part of that Track 1 process. So there was no landscape plan, there was no city forester review of this project at that time.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. But I do think we should, at this point, given how this transpired, I like the option of trying to do what we can to preserve the tree, particularly since there's no other tree on the property. And but I think they should have to. It seems to me they should have to post a bond in case the tree doesn't survive, so that we don't have to revisit this at some point in the future. And I want to commend Sarah. She has been, over the last year, coming to us with these situations which she seems to find on her own. So she's obviously got her eyes open, and as she moves around town and that sort of thing. And you know, obviously, homeowners, contractors don't report to us when they've cut roots or damaged a tree. And I really want to commend Sarah because there've been a number of times where she's brought something to our attention, and it's really been valuable, and I really appreciate her seeing that as part of her job.
I agree. So does anybody else want to talk about this, or do we want to make a motion of how to bring resolution? JC?
I'm happy to make a motion if there's no one else in the commission that would care to comment at this time. No? So I'll go ahead and make, it's a modified, it's motion modified from what the forester has recommended, and it falls along the lines of what Commissioner Cadell suggested, and that would be, make a motion that we require a bond for the appraised value of the tree. That bond also includes the cost for removal of the tree and the stump, the cost of preparing that independent appraisal, the cost for the release of the stop work order, and the possible, again, this is a bond, the cost to the city to plant a replacement public right-of-way tree, and that bond would be in place for 5 years.
I'll second that, but ask Sarah to confirm that she thinks 5 years would be a sufficient amount of time to let us know if the tree is going to survive or not.
Can I say something? That covers everything about the tree in the future, but some things have already happened. Trenching without a permit and stop work order fees and those sorts of things. Shouldn't we collect those, have a bond for our future needs, and then be able to release the stop work so that the owners of the home can complete what they need to do?
Yeah, that's a great modification of what I suggested. Did the forester have a response to Commissioner Cadell?
In terms of the 5 years?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. I think Bob has something to say.
Yeah, can I suggest a clarification to the motion? One is that the bond, for 5-year bond for the appraised value of the tree and the cost of removal, including the stump. However, the applicant to pay for the cost, in cash or a check for the release of the stop work order and for the $550 for the appraisal. Those are actual city costs that have occurred now. So regardless of what happens with the bond in the future, those are real costs for the city today.
Yeah, that was my error. Maybe another commissioner wants to give it a second try. That's a no.
No, I think you can just accept that as a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Right. I'm happy to accept that as a friendly amendment.
And then I'll second
it.
Okay, good.
Then Michael second it. Roll call, Yvette.
Okay, can we just go over the motion one more time just to make sure that I got everything? JC, if you want to go down your list.
Okay, so that we require a 5-year bond for the appraised value of the tree and the estimated cost for removal of the tree and stump, and that we require actual cash or check, current payment of the cost of preparing the independent appraisal, the cost for the release of the stop work order, and I need to add the $800 for replanting the tree back into the 5-year bond. Sorry. So the last part of the 5-year bond would have the replacement cost for the city to plant.
Okay.
$800. Right? Did I get that right, everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, and it was seconded by Michael, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Chair Mosley,
Yes.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next order under public hearings is the approval or denial of a tree pruning. No, that's wrong. Approval or denial of a tree removal permit application at Mission Street 3 northeast of 8th Avenue. Forester Sarah, can you give us a staff report? Uh-oh.
Where'd she go?
Sarah, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Thank you. All right, this is the Bell project. They're proposing to remove 5 oak trees, one of which is dead. 2 of them aren't large enough to rate as significant, and 2 are significant. In total, the lot has 30 trees, 2 of which are cypress that are in the public right of way. So they actually have 28 oak trees. So the removal of these 5, still it has a lot of trees left. So they're requesting the removal so that they can move their garage as part of building a new structure. So with that being said, my recommendation is that we approve the removal permit and ask that the plans for the site meet the density recommendations, which would include 4 new upper canopy trees.
Any discussion from the commission? JC?
Thank you. Forrester, Sarah, I'm sorry, just for clarification on the density requirements, that lot requires 4 upper canopy, correct?
Correct. It would be 4 upper canopy and 3 lower canopy trees, and they definitely already meet the lower canopy requirement.
And so the uppers that they have were there's 2 on the back.
They're in the public right of way. The
Okay.
uppers are just in the right of way, so technically those aren't their trees.
Oh, okay. Got it. So they need 4 to meet the requirement.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thanks.
Are there any other discussion from the commission? Do we want to see if the applicant would like to speak?
Good afternoon, commissioners. June Ciliano, I'm architect for the project. Also with us on Zoom today is Jean and Catherine Bell, the property owners. I just like to comment on the idea of moving the garage. It's not just moving the garage. I don't know if you've seen our plans. Our plans also includes adding an elevator that links the garage level to the house. For those of you who have been to the property, you can see how many steps we need to get to the top of it. So it's not just moving the garage, it's trying to accommodate an elevator for Jim and Catherine for their new home. It's been a hardship going up and down that stairs. So I just want to comment on that. That's why we have to move the garage. Also, with regards to the tree replanting, we do agree, but for those who have seen the property, I would like you to consider the fact that the property is already densely forested. Is it really necessary to plant more trees considering we have like almost 30 trees on site? Anyway, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I don't know if Jim or Catherine have anything to say.
I would like to say something.
Sure, Mr. Bell.
Yes, I'm Jim Bell, and this is my wife, Catherine, next to me. The lot, as those of you who have seen it, does have many trees already. 32. And with a look around, we don't know where these upper canopy trees, where there'd be room to plant them. Where are they? Or where they would go. And so I know there are rules, but it seems that our lot is already providing way more, pardon the, I don't think exaggeration, number of trees for our whole neighborhood. And so there's the trouble of finding a place where these would thrive. Where could they be planted without shading out or interfering with the other many oak trees that we have on our lot? There would be a question of when they grew larger and larger, would it really benefit the site of the lot or other? The house is already so high up, comparatively speaking, from the street level. Even the oak trees, which of course are not upper canopy, but visually speaking in other ways, many of them would give that impression. So these are various reasons why we think there should be some really well thought out modification or exception in this particular situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have something. The cypress trees, which are on city property, evidently are not considered open upper canopy, but they are shading out every time an oak tree bends over somewhere. Those cypress trees are shading out the tree, and we're having a real hard time keeping them alive. So I think 32 oaks and no upper canopy is plenty. In fact, there are so many trees here, you can't even tell where the orange netting is for our house. It's really hard to see anything. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Bell or Mr. Solano? And seeing none, does anyone else from the public want to speak on this? No? So can we bring it back to the commission for discussion then?
Darlene?
Yes. Hi, Sarah.
Okay, so I definitely agree with the bills that 20, what will then be, what is it, 23 trees is more than the amount that we expect on any lot. I think it's a 50 by 100 lot. How much is it, Kathleen? Catherine?
32.
32, oh, okay. So there's several things that I think, first of all, it isn't a rule that you have to have a certain number of upper canopy and a certain number of lower canopy. That actually is a recommendation. And in this case, this is one of the most forested lots in Carmel, I would think. And I actually wonder about, frankly, the fire danger. We had that meeting with the police, the fire chief, who said that all trees should be 5 feet from the house. That certainly wouldn't fit your lot. So I think it's fine for them to cut what has already been recommended, and I think there should be no need to plant any further trees. And by the way, the cypress, I think, are higher canopy, aren't they, Sarah? Yeah.
AC?
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Burling's interpretation of the recommendation and would wholeheartedly agree. This lot is quite wooded, and I felt, especially considering, I thought the architect made a good point as well, considering the elevation of the lot and the homes and looking back behind it and to the left and to the right, I feel as if introduction of some upper canopies would really almost be out of place at that lot level. And I'm actually I'm thankful that the homeowners didn't come to us asking to take a lot more of their lower canopy out. So yeah, my position certainly would be to
Like trees, we don't want to take any out.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to. I'm surprised that you didn't come asking. So anyway, my position would be to approve the removal of the trees that are a part of the garage remodel and not require additional planting.
I can agree with that. We were just there. There are a lot of trees on that lot. So do we want to make a motion to approve the removal permit of the trees on Mission and 8?
I think Brian maybe wanted to say something.
I'm sorry, Brian. Hi, Brian. I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't see you.
No, I'm in agreement with the consensus here of everyone that the lot has a fair amount of trees, and again, the recommendation for upper canopy doesn't seem reasonable given the amount of lower canopy trees that are located on the property.
Okay, let's make a motion.
Okay, let's make a motion. I move that we approve can I do it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, good.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the removal permit application at Mission Street 3 North, east of 8.
I'll second that.
Okay, Yvette, can we have a roll call?
Sorry, I didn't see who seconded it.
Oh, I did. Jason.
JC.
Okay. Chair Mosley,
Yes.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer.
Yes.
Okay, that's approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next public hearing is for the approval or denial of a tree pruning application at Carpenter Street, 3 northwest of 4th Avenue. Sarah, would you like to make our staff report?
I'll be making the staff report.
Okay, Bob.
I drew the short straw. So I have a little presentation to do, if I can share my screen. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I gotta move this out of here. Okay, so this is the approval or denial of a tree pruning application at Carpenter 3 Northwest of 4th Avenue. This is the background. I view this information as factual, so it's not really much of a debate. So for the background, Mr. Ahrens, who's on the call today, he's the applicant. He lives at Carpenter 3 Northwest of 4th. Ms. Silva is the neighbor. She owns the tree at Carpenter 4 Northwest of 4th. This is a 4-stemmed oak tree that originates from the Silva's property. Stem number 1 is really the subject of this item. Stem number 1 is growing at about a 45-degree angle to the south. It crosses through the fence and across the property line. Then it goes up and over Mr. Ahern's house. Oak stem number 1 is in fair to good condition per the arborist, or per the forester. And the applicant is in the process of planning and hopes to build a 2nd-story addition, which conflicts with the location of stem number 1. Last month at the August 19th Special Forest and Beach Commission meeting, the commission did a tour of inspection. The prior information in the packet was a tree evaluation, photos, and an addendum by the applicant's arborist, Brian Jacobson, who is also on the call today. There was a personal letter from Mr. Ahrens. The city forester presented this application last month and recommended approval to remove stem number 1. The applicant believes stem number 1 is imminently dangerous, although the city forester does not. So last month, the Forest and Beach Commission decision was to continue this item for 60 days to review alternative architectural plans to see if it's possible to avoid stem number 1 and to assess the value of the tree for a bond or some type of security. And we were ready to go forward. We didn't need 60 days. We just wanted to go forward and get this thing done. So we met with the architect and the applicant late last month. He presented this plan. I'm just going to walk you through it. It's described in the staff report, but just so that we're all on the same page. On this map, north is up on the page. This is Ms. Silva's house and property. There's a subject tree originates there, and here's stem number 1 through here. The existing house is kind of H-shaped, and Mr. Ahrens' presentation will kind of demonstrate what's involved in all these rooms of the house. The proposed 2nd-story addition was located in the northwest corner of the house. So we looked at, or they looked at, some other alternatives. One alternative was to go to the southwest corner of the house. That's shown in yellow. This has a fatal flaw because it violates the city's design guideline 7.3, because from existing grade to the roof line would be 24 feet, which is quite a bit higher than the 18 feet allowed. So that's kind of a no-brainer. It can't go there. in this middle of the H, this is the living room below. A second story here would eliminate the architectural character of the existing living room ceiling, which is really nice. And the applicants will have some photos that you can see that the only way to do it here would be to eliminate that key feature of the house. It also violates a city guideline, design guideline 7.3. And last, on the east side of the building, in orange, there's a couple maybe sub options. One is to install it starting from the garage and to the south. However, there's other trees all over the place here, so that's not gonna that's gonna also have a number of stem problems. And the let's see, try to trying to read my slide. Oh, and then this mass would violate city design guideline 7.2 because from Carpenter Street, which is labeled here, this would be a big mass addition to the building. So essentially, all three of these locations don't work. The only location that does work is in the northwest corner. That conflicts with the stem, unfortunately. And then let's see what else we got. I apologize about this screen where I'm showing people. Let's see if I could. There we go. Okay, so the recommendation is to approve the removal of stem number 1, subject to 5 special conditions of approval. The applicant has agreed to all of these special conditions except for a little twist on number 3. So special condition of approval number 1 and 4, and we're using the same numbering that we did in the written staff report. Condition number 1 is regarding the timing of the removal, and condition number 4 is the indemnification of the city. We see this as a combination. One has to go with the other, although the commission has a choice between 2 options. So option A would be is if the commission allows the stem removal at this time, the applicant would defend and indemnify the city against any claim associated with the oak stem. However, if the recommendation, or if the special condition is to defer removal until the issuance of a building permit, which may, there's no definite time frame when a building permit would be issued at this point, or if the forester and the applicant believes that an upcoming storm might cause some damage. So again, if it's deferred, the applicant would defend and indemnify the city against any claim related to issuing a permit for that removal. In other words, you can't indemnify for the whole tree if you don't know when it's going to be removed. It's a onerous and not unnecessary requirement. So the applicant and I believe that these option A or B are equally fine, and it's in agreement. Condition number 2 that the applicant agrees with is to reimburse the city for the actual cost of the appraisal, which is $550. The appraisal value was not known when the packet was sent out. We got that information today. Condition number 3 would be to post some bond or some other security for the value of the total tree as it stands today, and the value is $25,400. I believe the applicant's going to suggest a lesser amount, and that's fine. The value of the remaining tree after removal of stem number 1 is $10,300, and the value of stem number 1 by itself is $15,100. So the language of the bond will be on the next slide. And the applicant agrees to plant 1 tree in collaboration with the forester after construction and prior to occupancy of the new addition upstairs. This is the special number 3. This is to post a bond or security. Rather than the way it was written in my staff report, Mr. Ahrens countered with the following statement, which frankly is more clear, it's more fair, and it makes more sense. So I'll read it into the record. This would be that he would post a bond or provide other form of security satisfactory to the city for the valuation of Mr. Aaron's neighbor's tree, which is stem number 4 in the arborist report, or approximately 30% of the value of the whole tree, for a period of 5 years. Should Ms. Silva's oak tree go into rapid decline, as determined by the city forester, after removal of Mr. Aaron's stem, which is stem number 1, then the proceeds would be given to Ms. Silva. Any funds transmitted to Ms. Silva would be released for her to plant a new tree or trees on her property in cooperation with the city forester. However, should the city forester determine either that her tree significantly declines and dies within 5 years beyond the control of Mr. Aaron's, or if the tree doesn't decline at all or doesn't die after 5 years, then those funds would be released back to Mr. Aaron's at that time. And before I open it up to questions, I just kind of want to run through the process of this public hearing. The applicant will be making a presentation. I don't know if he'll need all 12 minutes, but maybe not. The applicant's consultants, such as his arborist or architect, will have up to 3 minutes each to present if they wish. We have a little bit of a twist here. The tree owner is Ms. Silva. She was not available today. And the city's oversight, we sent her the Zoom information for this meeting, but we did not include her on the list when we sent out the email notification of the packet. So we believe Ms. Silva said that she thought this would be heard in 60 days rather than closer to 30 days. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So after the tree owner, if she is on the line or her representative is on the line, it'd be great. If not, the commissioner can ask questions of the applicant, open it up to public comments, and then go forward with deliberations. Regarding the tree owner's inability to attend today, a couple of different options. Of course, each commission could proceed with this matter and make a decision. The commission could continue this to next month, which would be stressful to say the least to the applicant, and or the commission can make a decision today, and if the owner of the tree has a problem with that, they can appeal your decision to the city council. We do not believe that the owner of the tree is instrumental in making the decision as to what to do with that stem. We know that she wanted to be compensated for the loss or the devaluation of the tree, and that's what we are doing, and that was based on her prior testimony at the meeting last month. And with that, I will stop sharing. And hopefully that made sense. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then we'll open up to Mr. Aarons' presentation.
Stacy?
Thanks. Appreciate that, Bob. I guess I'm trying to understand this. Well, I have two questions actually. First, the indemnification of a claim associated with the oak stem. Can you help me understand what can you give me the example? Would that be the tree owner putting a claim against the city because the stem was cut?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand the indemnification clause in what was being presented. So, am I missing something? If we move to have it removed, then what would we need an indemnification for?
If the commission approves the removal in the near term, the very near term, the applicant would indemnify and defend the city against any claim to do with the tree. Which one way to look at it is if Ms. Silva were to sue the city for for removal of the tree, so we would be protected. Okay. That's one extreme example. Or if the neighbor said, "Wait a second, you devalued the tree by X dollars," we would be defended and indemnified, although any kind of future negotiations would probably most likely be between the two private parties.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure I understood. And then the second comment or question I had, in regards to the valuation of the tree, and then what the applicant had, or I guess I'm not sure if it was the applicant or the applicant's legal counsel suggested was the fair value that he would post. How is it that he's coming to a determination of a value of, he's just based off of one of the stems and suggesting that stem is the only value that he would offer for?
I'll let the applicant speak for himself. Keep in mind, we got the valuation of the tree a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
So there's not a whole lot of time to review it with legal or anything like that. I passed it forward to the applicant. So he saw the numbers just a couple hours ago, and I believe he's going to make a counteroffer. And of course, a counteroffer is a perfectly valid thing to consider.
But I just want to make sure I understood you, because you said that was a more clear way of putting it, thus you were making it part of your recommendation, or no?
Right, not the valuation is more clear, the wording of posting the bond.
Okay.
So his wording of posting the bond, I believe, was superior to the way I wrote it out.
All right, thanks, I appreciate it.
We're going to get him to write future staff reports, so.
Just real quick for clarity, the appraisal was done using the reproduction trunk formula technique from the 10th edition for the guide for plant appraisal, and the tree was appraised as a whole, and then the tree was appraised as if that stem was removed. So just a little more clarity.
Any other discussion from the commissioners? All right, would the applicant like to speak?
Can I just say that I'm
No?
here?
Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody raise their hand?
Yes, I did. I'm the owner of the tree.
Oh, okay.
And Doreen Silva, and this is, I'm just trying to get up to speed here because I haven't received a packet, and I was totally unaware of this meeting taking place today until about 2 hours ago. So I'm a little overwhelmed with everything, but I wanted to let you know that I was here in the room, and it was my understanding that we were going to address this issue next month. So I'm caught a little bit totally unprepared and a little off guard. And I'm not sure what to do going forward to be notified sooner than 2 hours before a meeting when it concerns my property. If you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
Bob, I don't know what to say.
I would, if Ms. Silva is done with her comments, I would recommend that the commission proceeds to hear the applicant's comment and his consultants.
I can appreciate that. I just don't know what to do going forward to protect myself, to know when something that involves my property is being heard before the commission. I mean, what do I have to do to be notified in a greater amount of time than 2 hours in order to prepare for the meeting?
We apologize from the depths of our heart. We would normally have copied you on when we send out the packet last Friday. It was an oversight. We are short-staffed. We did the best we can. You should have been notified last Friday. And then today was merely the Zoom number or the link so you could get on today.
Yeah, I got that from Sarah in an email.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, so we will press forward and hear from Mr. Aherms next. Yes.
Can everybody hear me? So Bob asked me to share my plans, and so I'm going to try and go through it pretty quickly. And I'll go over the last slide with that Bob presented as well, repeating a number of points. And then after that, I'd like to read another statement because I think it helps clarify things. So here is, let's see, share. Come on. Can you see my plans now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So this is the current house as it is. As Bob said, it's sort of an H-shaped house. One of the things I want to impress upon you right away is, even though you see the diagram, you really just from a diagram don't get a sense of how big or small the house is. This is a 1,700 square foot house, so it's pretty small. And that's going to have impact when we talk about staircases in order to get upstairs in this thing. But right now, here's Carpenter Street right here. This is sort of the side of the house. This is the front of our house, facing north, just facing Doreen's house, just as she faces mine. And the reason for that was this was my grandmother's house, and her brother had Doreen's house, and it was a family compound. So the living room connects the two, the bedrooms are in the back. This is a beam ceiling right here, and we want to extend that beam ceiling throughout all portions of the house that we can, even the garage, in order to, it's a trick a lot of people in Carmel use, in order to make your house feel bigger. On the north side of our house, it's quite shady. There are a lot of trees, there's fences, there's a lot of shading, there's virtually no light. When you came in to take a look at the house or the tree limb, you walked through this breezeway and you were right here, looking at the tree stem extending over bedroom 3, right here in bedroom 2. What we want to do is we want to open up this house so that we take advantage of the light, which is almost entirely on the southern side. So we're going to move the kitchen down here, move the dining room up here so we can eat in light, not in a dark cubby hole. We've got the garage right here, so though there's a window, there's really no view, and then there's one little window over here. Part of that is because the street's right here, and there's carpenters gotten busier, so so we open up, put the dining room over here. Take this half bath, move it over here, take the full bath, move it upstairs. Back here, we make this the study. I spend a lot of my time in the study. My wife will be working from home. We take advantage of the light up here. We peek it. Half bathroom, which would be bathroom for guests as they come. We take this second bedroom, put a staircase in here, take whatever extra space we have, give it to the bedroom to try and make for a master bedroom. Get rid of this washing laundry room, get rid of the linen closet, push the washer dryer up here, make a washer dryer closet, take the expanded space, make a larger bathroom so we can have a 2-sink bathroom. And actually, in order to do that, we actually move 2 feet out right here. But that's the only addition we make to the ground floor. So that's the existing. That's the general idea of what we try and do. These are the elevations of the house right now. And I'd like to make a point when you look at these elevations. There's no depth perception. If we look right here, this door to the dining room, this door to the heater and whatnot, if you look down here, that's this door and this door. So there's no depth perception. And this helps a lot, but it's not perfect. This is the south view looking towards the house to the south. This is bedroom 1, I think we have it. This will be the study. This is bedroom 2 that will be converted into the staircase. This is the view from Carpenter Street. This is the view towards Doreen's house, Doreen towards mine. You can see this is our front door. Here, this is the west side of the house, and what we consider the back of the house. And you can see here, as you head south, we end up with a really big slope over here, which will become important as when you see the second story elevations. This is the living room. This is the peak living room. And just to give you, apart from realizing, oh, I can see why they want to push that through the whole house, realize there is no room in this living room to put a staircase. There will be no living room. It's just, the house isn't that big. Here's the second story plans. We moved the kitchen down. We put the dining room up. This bathroom is gone. We made a kitchen pantry. Again, we peak all these areas. This half bath has come back here. The laundry room is gone. It's been pushed up to be a washer closet, washer dryer closet. This bedroom is gone. We put the staircase here. Because it's going up here, we're able to put in a closet down below. We're able to put in a little nook for a dresser drawer there. We're trying to maximize every corner we have. We're going from about a 3,200 square foot house down to what will be about a 2,200 when we're all done. And then this would be the master bath. And we put the door up here and we end up with a, not a bad, I mean, it's small, but it's a workable master suite. This is the upstairs. You come upstairs, there's the full bathroom from below and 2 bedrooms. 468 square feet addition. Here are the elevations. Now, this is facing south. And again, we lose depth perception here. So this is the bathroom now, but it's actually pushed way back. It's not right. It's not way up front. This is where bedroom two was, and this is where the second story is going in. These are the 2 doors into the dining room and the HVAC. This is from the street. One of the things I'd like to impress upon you is we're keeping, it's still board and bat. We're not changing the character of the house at all. So we're keeping it in character with what the current, people are used to. It's pushed back from the back of the street so it doesn't overwhelm the street view. This would be the view from Doreen. So there's a garage right here intervening, so she actually doesn't see all of this. This becomes relevant. This is the back of the house, and here you can see the second story. And what you're going to find is really the only real viable possible place to put this alternatively would be over this way. And the thing is, look at the bathroom, right? Look at these roof lines. These roof lines, when the roof lines go opposite of their direction. So in other words, if we start pushing this mass this way, this roof line will end up turning 90 degrees. And very quickly, this peak is going to start running over the 24-foot height limit. Immediately, as we move to the right, we'll be violating the 18-foot plate height limit. So we're going to be violating city codes all over the place, and it's because of the slope. The height limits are from the lie of the land up. Furthermore, there's a 5-foot, 4.5 foot retaining wall right here. Their house starts way below our house. So if we move this mass over here, we will be 39 feet over them. We will be massively over them, and they will be upset. And they will wonder, why did anybody get a variation on the roof height limits, not 10%, but over 20%, which will be an issue. Darlene, do you have a question? I can't hear you. I'll continue. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So let me just reduce this to 40% so I can get it all in. All right. First thing I want you to notice about this is, so here we have the advantages of the second story where it is now, and here are the disadvantages of their other areas as Bob went through. And I'll try and only hit on the things that he didn't say. One is, just for the record, let's note Darlene's house is a second story. Let's note this house is a second story. Let's note this house is a second story. This house under the yellow is a second story. Everybody's got a second story except this guy right behind me. So, we're not doing anything outrageous to the neighborhood. The second thing is look at the location. It's about equidistant from everybody. So it's fair and egalitarian in terms of location. As I indicated in the last time, this is where we have the most land on our 1.5 lots. There's virtually no land here separating our land from this house. Doreen also has the most land right here as opposed to there. So, if we move this second story down here, we would tower over and be immediately next to this house, which would be a problem for them. So this second story preserves the existing floor plan. It's the most self-contained design. It's not like a precinct voting situation where we squiggle all over the roof to squeeze something in. And whenever we try and do that, we end up having to add a long hall. And when you add a long hall, we go over the square footage, so it's not possible. It shifts the mass as rear to the possible from the public view. It doesn't require variances to setbacks, heights, or floor areas. It preserves the existing living room architecture, character of the house, maximizes the natural light that we want to take advantage of. Bob did a good job talking about this. We violate all the height limits here. I want to note the proximity here. Even here, we're going to be all over this house, much closer. This actually is not viable. It's simply not viable. In order to have have a second story, something like this, we'd probably still have to come up through the second bedroom, but we're going to have a long hall to get all around. And we're already at the max on square footage. There's no room to add a long hall. We could maybe add it here on the covered porch, ruin the front of the house, but again, there's no room. Same thing back here. There's just not the room. So that's why it really is truly actually the only place for a second story, and it does conflict with this one. So that's the plan part. This is just, these are the city guidelines, and this is how we violate them. It's just a note. So that's the plan part. Bob, should I go into the reading of my letter now?
Certainly. Perhaps you can just read the key portions of the letter as opposed to the entire thing, or?
Yes, I could jump areas, but things have changed a touch, which makes me want to read it.
Darlene, do you have any?
Yes, there is I'm sorry, with this whole Zoom thing, I didn't start a timer. There's a 12-minute time limit on your presentation.
How many minutes do I have?
I don't know exactly where we are in this, but.
I would only say that the city asked for the plans, so I showed the plans, and I think I've done them as quickly as I could.
If I may, the 12 minutes is pretty much up, and your written statement is in the packet. Perhaps to kind of save all of our time, if you can just highlight things that have changed more recently, that's not in your letter.
Okay.
Or just
I will. I'll go.
In other words,
I'll
amend the
cut
letter.
to the chase. I'll cut to the chase.
Okay.
I accept city conditions 1, 2, and 5. To clarify the issue with 1 is previously I agreed to indemnify any claim related to the oak stem. But if condition 1 comes up, which defers removing the stem until I get permitted, then that's an undefined period. And I can't indemnify the city if that tree falls, right? That'll be on the city, not on me. But what I can do is I can permit you, I can indemnify you against issuing the permit. And what that will do is it will prevent anybody from coming and saying, you know, you shouldn't have issued this permit at all. You know, it's not in your purview or it's not your domain. These are very common and normal in, you know, it's vanilla stuff in city ordinances, I guess, or rules. But let me go to condition 3. With respect to the bond, it's worth noting the city advised early that given the circumstances with the limb emanating from my neighbor's property, I have no control over its cultivation. And then in that condition, it would be impossible for me to obtain a bond. Instead, I have to enter into an agreement with the city and self-insure, which places a higher burden on me. Further, as written, the subject of tree and stems in the original language, was unclear. What was the stem and what was the tree and who was what and so on and so forth. So I rewrote it so that it became clear what was whose. The purpose of this bond, as discussed in August F&B, was to compensate Ms. Silva for her potential loss, and so in that event, that she could use the funds to plant a new tree. For these purposes, I will post a bond with the city and self-insure, despite the fact that I've already agreed to plant another whole tree, condition 5, which I think should provide a priori, a full remedy given any part or all of the tree's decline. What I am unwilling to do is also compensate Ms. Silva for any loss I may incur from my own stems, which comprise about 70% of the whole tree. The 70% of the whole tree comes from Brian Jacobson, my arborist report on page 1, where he says, in this tree, the weight distribution is eccentric, unbalanced, with over 75% of the branches and stem mass protruding southward onto and over the Aaron's property. So it's probably 25% on her side, and her side is even weaker, so it'd probably be less than 25%, but I'm gonna offer 30, is what I'm trying to suggest. What I'm unwilling to do is also compensate Mrs. Silver for any loss I may incur from my own stems. Otherwise, I'd be burdened twice. Once for my loss, twice for having to pay Ms. Silva, actually 3 times because I've already also agreed to plant another tree. And my humble recommendation was pretty much what Bob wrote there. And what the difference is, I'm saying post a bond or provide other forms of security satisfactory to this city for the valuation of Mr. Aaron's neighbor's tree. That is stem number 4 in the arborist report, or approximately 30% of the value of the whole tree for a period of 5 years. Should Ms. Silva's oak tree go into rapid decline, blah, 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 blah. Bob's already read that to you. There's been a lot of confusion here. I've been working on this tree with the city since middle of May, 4 months. There's been a lot of confusion because the stem starts in Doreen's, the tree starts in Doreen's and the stems come over to my property. I'd like you to think of a thought experiment for a moment. If this tree were on my property and we had the same stem problem and you guys agreed to cut the stem, then you'd say, Mr. Aaron's, you'll have to post a bond in case it dies, or or you have to plant another tree. It would be my tree. Doreen wouldn't have anything against my tree. In this case, it's very similar because the stems are mine. There is no question that the stems are mine. So the lawyer even says the value of the bond should be the value of that portion of the tree on Ms. Silver's property that might be damaged. To do otherwise, as proposed, is a denial of equal protection under the law. It's also true. So that's it. So I probably have exceeded my time. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Aherns. Would anyone else want to speak to this issue?
I would. My name is Brian Jacobson. I'm a certified arborist. I was a member of the Forest and Beach Commission and its chair about 3 decades ago. So it's nice to see bright, conscientious, civic-minded people hard at work. I'm puzzled at how far the issue of this branch has gone. For me, it's a very simple hazard management problem. Whether or not any building is going to happen, this is a long, heavy branch that is precarious, that overhangs an immovable target, a high-value target, specifically a human dwelling. You know, if it broke, I don't think anybody would get killed or injured, but property damage would happen. If this branch were just overhanging landscaping or a fence, those are lower value targets and you could leave it. If it were just out in the woods, you know, we wouldn't think of doing anything with it. But because it overhangs a dwelling, it's appropriate to take action to protect the structure. Little historical information. When I served on the Forest and Beach Commission, there were several times when projects were presented to us where commission members decided to try to get involved with redesigning an applicant's project. And the city attorney, Don Freeman, eventually came to a meeting and addressed the commission, and he roundly chastened us for going off range, because the issues that the Forest and Beach Commission deal with are specifically tree related. So getting involved in building design is all, it's interesting, but it's off range. Anyway, regarding managing this hazard, this seems to be a very simple issue to me. And this is something which, in my opinion, should have been approved administratively the very day that the application was submitted. So the fact that it's been going for months is surprising to me. And I strongly urge you to approve the application without conditions. Get it off your desk. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this issue? And does anyone from the commission have any questions for Mr. Ahearns? So are we ready to bring it back to the commission for discussion? I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know where to start on this. So you guys are being real silent, and I would love to hear what we're going to do to get this resolved. Michael?
Yeah, I think we got what we asked for, and without spending any more time on this, we've already spent, I think, a lot of time on it today. I think Bob's presentation, frankly, did it for me. That's the only place you can put the addition. I think that's not unreasonable for Mr. Ahearn to get that addition. I'm troubled by the fact that Ms. Silva did not get notice timely, but I think Bob apologized for that, and it seems to me that she's accepted his apology. And what we're talking about doing protects her if the tree does die after the stem is cut off. Then there will be a fund available, and the roughly, what is it, $10,000, the 30% of the $25,000 value of the tree, the 30% that would be allocable to the portion of the tree that's on Ms. Silva's property. That seems reasonable, and I would go ahead and be done with this and grant the permit to take the stem, but require the indemnification and the bond. If Ms. Silva is willing to state that she has no intention, I mean, I think probably the indemnification is a good idea, at least in terms of form, because while I don't think Ms. Silva has any intention of doing anything, there's always the possibility that someone else buys her property at some point and then complains about the city having cut the stem of a tree that's on her property. So I think probably the indemnification makes sense. But I think with the bond and the tree value of the tree that's on her property posted, I think she's protected. And it sounds to me like, and I know she's still on the line and could weigh in if she disagrees, but I think she would be willing to accept that and let everybody move on.
Sarah?
Well, I agree that this is the way the drawing goes, and it looks like it's the best way. And I don't understand the bond at all. The owners of the property, Paul, had no say in whether this tree went into their property. It seems to me there's even a private property issue here, and we aren't going to know if the tree dies. The tree doesn't look very healthy, the most healthy part of the two branches that are in his property. The other trees in that lot don't look very healthy either, and I don't mean that as any comment on Mrs. Silva, but it puzzles me, and I don't know that much about oak trees. I would have a hard time I would definitely vote to go ahead with cutting that one branch, or stem, you guys like to call it. But I will have a hard time voting for a bond to be issued.
Got it. Okay. Well, I appreciate both Commissioner Goodell's and Berlin's position. I think the thing that comes up for me in regards to this tree is number one, the somewhat appeals to me a little bit cavalier attitude about, well, I'm willing to plant a new tree if there's something that happens to that tree. And that tree is not it's not a 1-year-old tree or a 3-year-old tree. It's a tree that has really taken a really interesting and wonderful form, and albeit over and across the home of the Aarons, but I'm here to say that I think the removal of the stem is fine. And again, we had asked really why we were seeing this before it had even gone to the city. And I'm not really sure whether or not, the real reason is the hazard or it's more to get the development done. And I think it's great, let it be what it is. At the same time, to do it and take that stem and lose a tree, potentially, I think there should be a full value bond placed for 5 years. That's my opinion. All other things, let it be removed immediately for that case.
I feel very much like JC does and Michael, and I think that we should move forward and let the stem be cut, but I do think we need to have the bond. And so if we could, I don't know, Brian, if you want to weigh in on this, or anyone else from the staff? Sarah?
How about having two motions then? Have a motion that the branch can be cut. And then if you guys want to pose another motion that there's a bond, then that would be fine too.
I would suggest also that the second motion include some of the other miscellaneous conditions of approval. But separating out the yes or no of removal of the stem makes a lot of sense to me to have a separate motion. We'll start there.
I have one thing to add. This is Doreen. That if it is voted to remove the stem, that is at a good time of year for the tree itself, and I think that's in the fall. I think that, according to the Carmel-by-the-Sea Forester website, is October, November. So if it is voted to cut that stem, that cutting happens at a good time, at the best possible time for the tree. Sarah might be able to speak to that since she is the forester. And Mr. Ono thought the tree was very healthy and that there's new growth, especially on my side when he was out here appraising it for the city last week.
Sarah, did Commissioner Sowers have anything to add?
You know, I'm in agreement with, you know, the idea to separate the two, both the cutting of the stem and then around the bonding as a separate motion.
And Sarah, is there a certain time that it's better to cut the stem? Forester Sarah?
Yes, in the fall would be fine.
Okay, so can we have a couple of, JC?
No, it actually looks like Commissioner Goodell had something.
Oh, Michael, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just you can't make two motions at once. You can only make one motion. I would just make a motion that we grant the permit to cut the tree stem. And then if we want to make a second motion, we can. But at this point, we just, and consistent with, so I move that we grant the permit to cut the tree stem, consistent with the city forester's recommendations concerning the best time of year in which to do that.
I second it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yvette, can you take a roll on that?
Chair Mosley?
Yes.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell?
Yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer?
Yes.
Okay, move to approve 5-0.
Okay. And then, Chairman?
Okay, now we need to take up the other issue. Is that right? We'll have another motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make a motion. I do think I mean, I agree this is a difficult situation because the tree is on Miss Silva's property. And it's a shame that, you know, 30 years ago when it first started extending over into the Ahern's property, they didn't just nip it in the bud, and so to speak, and we wouldn't be dealing with this 30 years later, or 50 years later, whatever. But it is difficult, and if you cut the stem and the tree dies on Miss Silva's property, then I do think she's entitled to some compensation because we're allowing Mr. Ahern to cut a branch that could cause her tree to die. So it's this is the kind of case that they use in first year law school classes because it illustrates it's a tough case. It's a difficult legal issue. But I would make a motion that as part of the decision to allow the removal of the tree stem in question by Mr. Ahern, that the Mr. Ahern enter into the conditions proposed by the city forester and public works director, the 5 conditions that we looked at, utilizing 30% of the value of the tree, the entire tree, as the amount of the bond to be posted in case the tree dies. utilizing Mr. Ahern's language about that, such that if it's determined within the 5 years that the tree died without regard to the stem cutting, for example, if it gets hit by lightning, or it gets a tree, somebody runs their car into it or something and knocks it down, that's not fair to charge Mr. Ahern for. And that we, that after the 5 years, if the tree's still living, that the bond be released. And the other cost, the cost of the appraisal, the other costs that have been incurred by the city with respect to this issue be paid by Mr. Ahern.
And if I may, just one last condition was the planting of a new tree.
Oh, and the planting of a new tree, yes.
So, Commissioner Cadell, just a question in regards to your motion and specifically the 30% value piece. If you lose 100% of the tree, why would he only be responsible for 30% of the value of that tree?
Because I feel like it's a compromise. Some of the most, it is true that stem that's growing, the two stems that are growing in, or maybe three stems that are growing into Mr. Ahern's property are the most attractive or somewhat more attractive than the part of the tree that is solely on Miss Silva's property. So to me, I think that's a reasonable compromise in a situation where in a very unusual situation where we really don't have a clear cut, it's not, the tree's not solely on Mr. Ahern's property, but he's going to get to cut a significant portion of it. But the truth is Miss Silva isn't entitled to compensation for the portion of the tree that it seems to me is on his property. So it's a compromise. I don't think there's a easy way to do it either way.
Bob, add something to that?
You want to make a friendly amendment? Oh, sorry. Bob, hands up.
Yeah, first, as a sort of Robert's rules, I've made the motion. I'm
going to go ahead and second your motion.
Yeah, somebody has to second it. We can't go on to anything else. Okay.
I seconded it. Yep.
Okay.
Can we have a roll call, Yvette?
Yeah, hold on just one moment. All right, Chair Mosley?
Yes.
Commissioner Burling?
No.
Commissioner Cadell?
Yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sauer?
Yes, that's Sowers.
Sauer, sorry.
That's okay.
All right, a motion of 4-1.
Okay, great job. We are going to move into orders of business. And at this time, I was supposed to at the beginning of the meeting, but I was a little harried at the beginning of the meeting, announce that JC is going to take over the chair for me. I will be here for a while, but unfortunately I have to leave a little bit early, and he was nice enough to say that he would continue on, and I really appreciate it. And so take it away, JC.
Oh, wait, I thought I was taking over at 6.
Oh, I just thought this would be a good time to do it. I can keep going if you want me to. I just thought it was a nice break in the action.
There's a break in the action. Hang on a second, I can step in.
Are you ready? If you want to.
I'm happy to, no problem. One moment.
Well, then if we're in the middle of something and I have to go, it won't look like I'm just going.
Fair enough. Then at this point, then we have reached where the city forester is going to make a presentation regarding the tennis and pickleball court options. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
So the city has 2 tennis courts in Forest Hill Park along Lorca Lane, and from what I understand, about 8 years ago, the tennis courts had an addition of striping for pickleball. So since that time, pickleball has become more and more popular, and the players at the park are requesting that we restripe the courts so we can add 2 additional pickleball courts, sorry. So the way it stands now, if you have a tennis match going on, you can have 1 game of pickleball. So with the addition of the striping, you could have a tennis match going on and 2 games of pickleball. So it allows for more people to play at the same time. If no one chooses to play tennis, there could be 4 games of pickleball going on. So the pickleball players are really excited about having more and more people be involved and having a facility that can accommodate more people. And they're offering to provide mobile nets to delineate the center of play for pickleball on those new courts. They would be mobile, so if the tennis players want to play tennis, they still have full access to the court. So with that in mind, I reached out to the community via an online survey through our Friday letter, through the Carmel-by-the-Sea neighborly Facebook group, as well as the Carmel neighborhood on Nextdoor. And I was able to get 82 responses, which I think is really great. And you can see that my questions, my first question was, did you know we even had a tennis court? And 85% of the respondents did know that we had a pickleball court or tennis courts. And then I asked if you're supportive of having more striping, and about 82% were supportive of having more striping. And I took their responses, their typed in responses, and I tossed them into a word cloud. And you can see some words, are sticking out. The tennis, pickleball, more, court, net, play, players, use, love, that sort of thing. So it sounds like to me if the community is really interested in having this extra amenity. So it would not really involve much cost to the city. The players are volunteering to provide the nets and the power washing of the surface for the paint to go down, and the city would provide the paint and the labor. And we're also working towards replacing the tennis court nets themselves. They're a little bit old and damaged. So my recommendation is that we go ahead and add more pickleball striping to the courts. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for that presentation to the commissioners. Does anyone have any questions for Forrester? Sarah? I have one. I don't see any other hands. So in the survey, I noticed that there were neighbors, and that kind of the only negative trending theme seemed to be the noise decibels from pickleball. And playing the sport myself and familiar with it, it is a much louder sport than tennis, and specifically those courts over there seem to be like in a kind of a chamber. Was there any discussion with the players that play pickleball about possibly generating some funds for some like acoustic type fencing? I've read that that kind of mesh fencing that's available tends to drop the noise down by 50% of the human ear. So I'm just curious if that was ever anything that was discussed by those 40 plus pickleball players that are out there.
Yeah, no, we haven't discussed that, but that could be definitely something to discuss.
Got it. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions for this presentation, then is there someone from the pickleball community that would like to speak to this?
Yeah, I would. I met you today at the courts. This is Susie Query. Grew up in Carmel, used to play on the tennis courts when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I still play tennis, and we still play pickleball. the complaint, the closest neighbor is across the street. And we've talked to him many times. And I asked him once, does it bother you? We're out here playing. And he said, I love it. You're the best. And I don't think the city has had any complaints from our close neighbors. But he's the closest. He loves us. The people to the west, I don't think they can hear us. There are trees and everything in the way. I don't, maybe eventually we could put up some sort of muting fences like they have on tennis courts. But right now, I think we're fine.
Thanks, Susie. Is that all you have for your presentation on this?
Well, as far as your question's concerned, I could go on about pickleball, but the noise is not an issue.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Susie?
I don't have a question. I know that there's people in town who very much want more courts, really for tennis also, but mainly right now for pickleball. So.
Okay, well, just if we have any other questions for what Susie presented.
I don't have a question for Susie or Sarah.
Thank you. Well, let's see, is there anyone else, Susie, from the pickleball community that wants to speak? I'm looking at the people on the calls and I'm not really sure.
Not that I know of. Okay. They wanted me to represent them, so we have one voice.
You did a fine job then. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this matter before we bring it back to the commission? Oh. Going once, going twice. All right, let's bring it back and there's a hand. Perfect. Commissioner Cadell, what have you got to say?
I think this is a no-brainer. I think we should approve it. I've been in Camarillo recently for various reasons. And one of the places I walk, they have a lot of small parks there. And one of the parks, they've got 2 tennis courts. They've striped it. The tennis courts are striped in the traditional white. The pickleball courts are striped in a sort of pale yellow, but good enough to see. They have the mobile on rollers, pickleball nets. And I've seen many times 4 games of pickleball going on at one time. I've seen 2 games of pickleball and 1 game of tennis. It works very well. It may be a little noisier than tennis. Maybe I just make a lot of noise when I play tennis, but it certainly is not anything disruptive or anything like that. So I think it's a win-win, and I think we should approve it.
Got it. Any other commissioners with something to comment here? Yeah, I'll echo Commissioner Cadell's observations about the sport and certainly its popularity, and recognizing, again, as a player myself, that it's fun, and it seems like there's a lot at the entry level is much lower than tennis actually in terms of being able to get up to play it. So I like the idea where we're adding more courts to an area that is being has been, I wouldn't say underutilized, but opens up for some additional opportunities, and sounds like there's a big crew of all ages coming out. So I do think that we want to, sorry, Susie, we brought it back. So
yeah, why don't both of you come out? And we play 9:30 usually. Come out.
I heard the invitation.
We're not going to let you win, but we'll give you a game.
All right, but again, I think at some point we're probably going to start to hear some complaints about 4 pickleball courts going all at the same time. It is noisy, and it's fun noisy, but it's noisy if you happen to live by it. So you might not necessarily appreciate it all the time. So be it. I think at this time, I would certainly make a motion to approve the forester's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Great. Let's do a roll call then. Is that?
Okay, who seconded it? Was that Darlene or Sarah?
Either
Darlene.
Sorry, Sarah. Darlene got it.
All right, Chair Mosley.
Yes.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Cadell?
Yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
looked like he dropped off.
Yeah.
Okay. So 4-0. Thank you.
Good.
There you go, Susie.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll look for you to come out and play.
Very good. Okay, so let's see. The next order of business for us is we're going to go through. Let's go. Oh, well, we've got a City Forester's monthly report for August. Take it away, City Forester.
Let me get my screens moved around here. Yeah. Okay. August was pretty quiet. We spent most of the time getting ready for car week. So lots of cleaning up of things, that sort of thing. With the help of Carmel Cares, we expanded one of the planting beds by the pond in Devendorf Park. We had one notable failure. A tree fell from Forest Hill Park across Camino del Monte, and we cleaned that up. It had a lot of heart rot, which was kind of interesting. We hadn't noticed that one. We issued 2 stop work orders last month, which we heard tonight. And of course, the results of the survey that we sent out to all of the neighborhoods to see if they wanted more pickleball or not. So here are our permitted removals for, let me make that bigger, for the month. So again, the numbers in previous months move around as things get finished out and closed up. So that's where that stands. Year to date, we're up to 107 permitted removals, and our replanting rate is at about 64%, which is pretty good. And we've processed through 138 applications for permits so far this year. We're I like this. We're more than halfway through the year, and we're a little bit behind pace from previous years for removals, which is good. And our pruning number is getting pretty high too. And we're entering into October soon, which will be our planting season. So we'll get more trees in the ground when the weather's cooler and there's more moisture available. Again, our work slowed down quite a bit for August because of that preparation for car week. And any questions on any of that?
Is that the full report?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. Commissioners, any questions back for our forester? Doesn't sound like it. So good news. We'll go ahead then and move to the, well, go through. Sorry, I'm working on one screen here. Yeah.
Hey, Ramey, did you want to say anything?
Making me dizzy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't open it up to the public. I do apologize.
No.
Okay.
that was not Ramey. Did you have a comment or a question at all?
No, thanks, JC. I'm good. I'm eager to see trees go in the ground starting in October. Sarah said the right thing. If she didn't say that, I was going to jump on it.
We know.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Then I'll move it on. Let's see. I'm imagining. Oh, wait a minute. I think we are about to get a report from our Public Works Director. Is that where we've reached?
That's me. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be relatively brief. First is the City Council actions of their meeting on September the 7th, which was just 2 nights ago. Several things that relate to forestry, parks, and beach. First, in terms of the North Dunes restoration site, Council extended a contract with Joey Canepa and Native Solutions another year, so She'll be here for 2 more years, and at a fee not to exceed $20,000 over the 2 years. Pretty much more of the same, continue to monitor, continue to pull weeds and things like that. Second, speaking about the North Dunes Council, this came to us just very recently. The California Coastal Conservancy has, they were talking about $500,000 available, and they were interested in the North Dunes Boardwalk project along the Foredune and stairs down to the beach. That was an option about a year ago. We got the Coastal Conservancy grant for, the council decided to use that for the Mist Trails Nature Preserve. But the Conservancy was still interested in the boardwalk at the dunes. So council authorized staff to submit a grant application. There's no guarantee, but it could be quite a bit of money available to for us to do a new boardwalk that would go from the Del Mar parking lot and go pretty much almost due north to the 4th Avenue boardwalk, and then possibly some stairs across from where the volleyball courts are. So anyway, that's remains to be seen. The integrated pest management policy was approved without any comments or concerns. And if you recall, the commission approved that several months back. And Carmel Cares became an official support group of the city. So that's in the similar to the Friends of Carmel Forest, the Board of Library Trustees, I think, and Friends of Mist Trails Nature Preserve, and a bunch of others. So that is that for the city council meeting. Oh, and also what was interesting is the end balance. There was a preliminary projection of last fiscal year. So a year ago, going into fiscal year 2021, when COVID was in our face, the city with layoffs, with operating budget cutbacks, with cancellation of all funded capital projects, estimated that the city would lose $1 million on top of that, like taking out of savings. Okay, so that was the intent going into last fiscal year. That fiscal year ended June 30th this year. The preliminary numbers is that not only did we not lose the $1 million, we were up by $3.9 million. So we can, let's see, for the capital projects, the only thing to report there is we're out to bid on the fire fuel reduction in Mist Trails Nature Preserve using a $45,000 grant, also the Coastal Conservancy. And we had 6 bidders at the mandatory pre-bid walk. So that's, hopefully we'll get 6 bids on the 21st, and then have that go to the council next month to award and get more fire fuel out of the way. Also, we're hoping to post for the project manager position that we lost for when COVID struck. So hopefully we'll be posting for that and we can fill that position fairly quickly. In terms of the climate committee meetings, not much to report. A consultant is starting on our greenhouse gas emission forecasting. So we're getting into the technical meat of the climate committee work, and they're starting to develop adaptation strategies. So it's coming from like what are our vulnerabilities, what are the risks, what are the sensitive areas, and now we're starting to look at solutions. So making good progress there. In terms of volunteer organizations, going back to Carmel Cares, we're kind of in a holding pattern with them where we were meeting with them every Friday morning, and they would tell us what they did that week, and it started to become a routine, which it's still a wonderful thing that they're helping. It started to become a routine. So now we switch it to every other week and be more forecasting what is ahead of us. So what are they going to do over the next 2 weeks? So there won't be any more surprises and things of that nature. They are still growing their membership, which is great. And they recently integrated with Keep America Beautiful. So I'm not sure how that works, but they're intertwined, and they're focusing using Keep America Beautiful to help with trash and cigarette butt pickups. And miscellaneous, let's see. The fire pits will be removed on September the 15th. So there's 5 fire pits. They're coming out on the 15th. If you haven't heard yet, Britt Everett was our city clerk. She did a fantastic job. She left us. She went to the city of Saratoga. So Ashley Wright is acting city clerk, as well as library director, as well as community activities director. So she's really scrambling. And Leslie Fenton, who was our acting commission secretary for the past year, is also helping with the city clerk duties. So if you have any questions, like for example, Commissioner Cadell asked about when his term is up, we'll be talking to Ashley and Leslie to try to get some information on where we're at. But we are sorry to hear that Britt was leaving. We are thrilled that Yvette is back with us full time now, or back with the city full time. 25% of her time is in Public Works. And also hot off the press news is that Paul Tomasi, the chief, will be retiring from the city in mid-October, and he'll be the new director of, I believe it's director of security for the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So if anyone kidnaps an otter, he's going to be right there with guns and sirens blasting. And I think that's all I have to report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Commissioners, do you have any? Yes, please.
Yeah. How come they're taking the fire pots out so early? The tide is still low. It's not.
It's based on the that's not the master plan. It's the pilot study. That is the date.
Oh.
That is the normal date.
Okay.
We're not doing it sooner or later. It's just that date.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Cadell?
I would just mention to Bob, I looked during the meeting and right now on the city's website, it says commissioners' terms run through April. So apparently there was a change, because I know I started in October and would have run through September. And the conversation was that with the election, they didn't want to have to select commissioners just for the election, and they have a new city council. So
you're absolutely right. That's correct.
They have extended it now, changed it so that your term runs through April.
I do have confirmation on that, and yes, the expiration dates from October to April.
I'm gonna have to
wanted to be reappointed then.
I'm gonna have to scratch all this really nice stuff I was about to say about you.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Stuck with us until April.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the public that would like to ask any questions of this last report? If not, then let's put future agenda items out there. I will just comment first that the ad hoc committee will be making a presentation next month. This time frame was just too short for us to come back to the committee, or the commission, with our recommendations on how to move forward on our communication strategy with residents and visitors. So thanks for your patience there. Anyone else with the future agenda item?
I forgot to mention that we're trying to schedule an Arbor Day planning meeting.
Okay. And then I'll also add that hopefully, I don't know if it's truly an agenda item or not, but there was a volleyball celebration this last weekend that raised a little over $700 for the North Dunes Restoration Project. And once we get finished counting all the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters we collected, we'll make that official dollar amount and present it to the Public Works Department.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Well, then I think we're adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoy, guys. We'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.